Hey there everyone, this is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage and I am getting ready to list my latest restored vintage sewing machine. What you are looking at is a Atlas. This is the Atlas straight stitch sewing machine, or as many sewing machines like this one that were made in Japan in the 50s, it's called Precision. They put almost every manufacturer in Japan used either the word deluxe, precision, or both, and I don't know why, but maybe they thought that was a good way to market it. But when you see, a lot of times you'll see old sewing machines like this from the 50s, and they come in different colors, like lollipops, and they have all sorts of different names on them, and many times there are names you don't recognize. In fact, I've made a video of a similar machine to this that I restored about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. And I think I mentioned at the time that a lot of the names that you see were not the manufacturer. And today, there are companies that many of you who are sewers will recognize, names like Janome, names like Juki, and then Brother. These are all fairly well-known names in sewing machines today. Well, they've actually been around since the 1950s, but their names were not particularly popular back then. They weren't well known. And so what they would do is they would private label manufacture. This is actually a Brother sewing machine. Some of you can go online and you may even see Brother machines that have different styling, but they're in the pink color. I've always been a little surprised that there were not more pink machines made during the 50s. There were certainly lots of turquoise colored machines. And pink was a real popular color back in the mid to late 50s. And I've always been surprised. Like I say, the Brother company was one of the only ones that ever made machines in pink. And this is sort of a cosmetic-like pink. And some of you would call it a peach/pink. Again, it has a lot of the styling elements from the 1950s. You can see over here there's lots of chrome, there's gold tone in the lettering, and there's lots of shine and embellishment. In fact, if you ever look at the appliances, electronics like stereos and televisions and radios from the 50s, even the dashboards on cars, they all have this glittery look. This machine comes in a case, but you can install it in a Singer cabinet. A lot of your competitors who are trying to get into the market in the United States, they were smart because Singer was the biggest company and Singer had the most tables out in the marketplace. Most people were not going to buy a new sewing table if they had one already. So the Japanese said, aha, we'll make our machines to have the same footprint as many of the Singers did. So if any of you who are interested in purchasing this, you say, well, I really want a table. This machine it is compatible with many of the Singer sewing tables. This particular one comes in a carrying case, as many of these did. So again, it says Atlas Sewing Centers. This one was in Miami, Florida. And this was a big distributor of sewing machines back in the day. I can tell that this was a one owner. I have the original owner's manual. And it even says it had back when it was sold, it had a lifetime guarantee, which is pretty cool. And it shows that the cash price was $219.50. But remember, in 1957, that was quite a lot of money. That was between $3,000 and $4,000 today. So that reflects the quality that went into machines back in those days. And of course, this actually, I have to tell you guys, this is unusual. A lot of the old sewing manuals, they're very informative, but their illustrations were not always super awesome, which means it's nice to have a PDF. But in this case, they made this is fairly easy to read, relatively speaking. So that's pretty cool. And then there are all sorts of guidelines. There's even a separate little booklet on how to use the attachments, of which I have quite a few feet and attachments that came with this machine. If you want more, it takes low shank feet and attachments. You can buy vintage or new. They should work. It comes with its own little Atlas sewing tin. It comes with its own Atlas box. And all this stuff is pink and color coordinated. It's really cool. And you'll see these. I should put these in the photographs on the listing for you. But the main purpose of today was to tell you guys a little bit about the machine and then to let you see its stitching. It stitches beautifully. You can lower your feed dogs, and you can lower them for delicate fabrics or all the way down for darning or free motion work. This takes a class 15 bobbin, which is a very common bobbin. So They're usually chrome, but they often look like this. This one's a dark color. But Class 15 bobbins are very easy to find. You want to use vintage bobbins, but again, they're all over the place online. And that was a Singer design. So this machine is sort of it's a combination of different things, but it's based on a tried and true Singer design. And when the patent expired, the Japanese took it over, and then they changed it over time. Very easy to maintain. I have fully overhauled and restored the machine, and you'll see, I'm not going to go into all the details of what I did because that'll be on the Craigslist posting. I have plenty of photographs and a specification of everything I did, so you guys can see that. But they're very easy to maintain. You keep your feed dogs cleaned right down here behind the plate. And then you oil the machine with every project, and you're good to go. One of the things that I do is when I restore the machine, I take it apart, and then I go behind, because a lot of times, guys, you'll notice that sometimes if you get an old machine and the knobs might be stiff, you don't want to force them, because a lot of times the reason these things break is not because they were poorly made. It's because behind this knob, which is just a little cover, there is a piece of metal. There's metal mechanicals going on back there. And I go back and I lubricate them before I even try to work with them. Because usually if they break, it's because someone's forcing something that's stuck. So again, all of these pieces have been cleaned and lubricated, so they work fine. And that's how they were designed to work. So anyway, let's see how much I've already used up 6 minutes of my video here. But I'm going to go ahead and do some stitching for you. And today, I'm going to not be doing denim. A lot of you have contacted me and said, hey, you know, you do all these heavy fabrics. Can you sew lighter weight fabrics? And we're going to sew some for you guys today because so many of my customers want machines that sew heavy. This machine has a 1.2 amp motor. It is a really powerful motor for a home machine. It's 2 to 3 times as strong as any of the new machines, most of those sold today. So. And now I'm going to use my color-coordinated pink foot pedal, which you can't see here on the video, but and I'll do a little stitching for you. Start out with long stitch length. It's a very quiet machine. And I've actually, I'm going to pull this up in a moment, but I've been doing a good bit of stitching already to testing the machine, making sure that she's ready before I even did the video, guys. So, and I can even shorten my stitch length here. We'll get it down so you can see that it can sew a variety. And I can go pretty fast. I'm not a fast sewer, but because again, this machine, if you compare this machine to say a 1930s machine, they tend to have higher RPMs. You've probably heard me say that in some of my other videos. So let's take a look. I want you guys to see these amazing stitches. Let's see. All right, I'm going to start out by showing you the long length right here. See if I can get it. There we go. Let me get it to focus. And then over here, up at the top, you can see these really nice short length stitches. There we go, I wanted to get it to focus in. And that's just 2 layers of very lightweight cotton. This might be a cotton similar to weight that some of you who quilt might use, or maybe a lightweight cotton dress for summer maybe. So I've got 2 more layers here, and I'm going to add those to what we've got. Oh, let me turn it over and make sure you guys can see the other stitches. Okay guys, now this is a white thread, so I gotta really work to get you to see quality of the stitch. Let's see, where will it show up best? And you can see the tension looks great. I'm going to lighten up a little bit on my presser bar because when you have a light fabric, if you're putting too much pressure on your foot, you'll tend to put too much pressure on the fabric itself. So let's lighten up, or lighten up just a bit on that. And then I'm going to get my fabric set up here. Very often when you see machines like this, you know, you'll see me in my videos, I'll either sew light or heavy fabrics. They were really designed to do all of that because remember, most people only ever had one machine at home. I know some of you very dedicated sewers have quite a few machines, but most people, if they were fortunate, they had one. And that machine had to do lots of things. It had to sew everything from heavy upholstery fabric when people would make slip covers. And then it also had to sew things like silk, for making handkerchiefs and things. So it had to be really flexible. So now we got 4 layers of this light fabric. Again, it won't be anything for the machine. And your pressure adjuster, which is on the top of the machine here, actually it has names. It starts silk, cotton, linen, and so forth. And then as I turn right, so I'll tighten it up just a bit. Make sure my thread goes under the foot there. And I'm still on short length. Let's go back up to a long length stitch, which will be hopefully a little easier for you guys to notice. Reverse is very simple. I'm going to push in on this little button. I can back tack. Very easy to do. Some machines you can put into reverse and leave it there, and some of them you hold reverse. Most of them you hold, and this one is in fact one of those. I'll do a little back tacking again for you guys. Again, this machine is so strong that what I'm sewing right now is really nothing for it. Let me go ahead and pull this out because I'm going to put in one more fabric in there before we finish up. So if you guys can see this, I've got fewer rows of stitches here. It might be a little easier to see. And then we'll see if the other side, I know it's hard to see white thread on white fabric, but it'll be a little easier next fabric because I've got a beige fabric. So my last fabric here, folks, this is more of an upholstery weight, not super heavy, but it's this is something you might make drapery out of, or you might even make a slip cover out of. Okay, so it's denser and it's heavier than what I was sewing. Using a size 14 needle right now, Oregon brand, one of my favorite brands of needles. They have a titanium coated version, which I'm using now, that is probably the most durable needle you can get. In fact, the only time I don't use Oregon is when I need leather or jeans needles. Well, that's not true. Oregon does make the leather tips, but for jeans needles I use the Schmetz. Okay, so now I've got a little bit heavier fabric here. I'm going to see if maybe I should adjust and go up a little heavier, slightly. We'll see. And again, the machine is not noticing any difference. I'm intentionally sewing just moderate to slow right now. I'll speed it up. I could probably go even faster, but and I'm still at a fabric weight where the machine can do that. Some of you guys can sew really fast. I can't, but you have that option. And pull this out. I can do many layers of this fabric. And in many of my videos, guys, you see me doing that. Come on the other side. That white really shows up nice. And you can just see this really nice stitches, high quality, and a really beautiful machine, a great sort of time capsule for the 50s. But again, this machine, don't be fooled by the name, it says Atlas. But in fact, it was made by brother. And a lot of the Japanese companies, Japanese names were not well known in the 50s. There was still some bias on the consumer's part because we hadn't been that many years away from the Second World War. But the quality that we later associated with Japanese products, particularly in things like televisions and even automobiles, it actually began when they started making sewing machines right after the Second World War. So anyway, beautiful piece of engineering. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me on the Charlotte Craigslist posting, and I'll be getting this video up as soon as I can. Thank you.